Timothy J. Hayes was born on October 14th, 1914, the son of Daniel and Margaret Hayes. He grew up in the town of Franklin, Massachusetts, and graduated from the local high school in 1932. He married Eleanor McCrory on May 16, 1943, where they lived at 62 Cross Street. Prior to the United States entry into the Second World War, he served in the Army and was recalled to active service shortly after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Joining the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment, a unit of the 101st Airborne Division, Hayes found himself at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where the divisional training facilities were located. Incidentally, this is actually where my parents live, just outside of Fort Bragg, and every time I go visit them, I see parachutists training just off the side of the highway where they live. In early September of 1943, the men of the 502nd set sail on the SS Strathnaver, but due to equipment problems and seawater contamination in the freshwater reserves on the ship, they found themselves stuck in St. John's, Newfoundland, from September the 11th until October 4th, until another ship arrived to take them across the Atlantic. I can only imagine what kind of trouble a full division of paratroopers got up to in George Street, or on George Street, if they did have any leave over those 3 weeks. Once arriving in England, the 502, also known as the 50 Deuce, trained for 7 months following a rigorous training schedule, rehearsing drops, training on German weapons, map reading, first aid, and other topics, preparing for the eventual invasion to come in June of 1944. A sergeant in the 502, 2nd Battalion D Company, led by Captain William A. Bolton, Hayes and the men in his regiment were assigned on D-Day as part of Operation Neptune to drop zone DZA in support of the landings at Utah Beach, with pathfinders from the regiment landing just after midnight on June 6th to guide the drops of the following sticks of the 101st Paratroopers. Their mission included securing 2 causeways leading inland, as well as destroying a German coastal battery near Saint-Martin de Verville. The men of the 502nd would be among the first wave of Americans to land in France, with a member of the regiment's Pathfinder platoon being officially the first American to jump behind German lines that night. I've been unsuccessful in finding details, as much of the U.S. records were destroyed in a fire in the 1980s. But Sergeant Timothy J. Hayes would be wounded on June 6, 1944, and would succumb to those wounds 8 days later on June 14th. 5 years ago, I walked through the rows of these American soldiers here, and I laid a flag at Timothy J. Hayes' grave marker. I spent some time with him and the other soldiers all around him. I didn't know anything about him. I just walked in with an American flag and left it in honor of him and the others here. On my return to Canada, I began trying to find some information about him and came across a website published by someone from his hometown that had posted about the town putting up street signs for soldiers from the town that had died while in service. In December of 2013, I met with Steve Sherlock, the man who ran the website, and I met him in Franklin, Massachusetts. I met him on Cross Street, directly underneath the new sign that the city had put up. We spent some time talking, and he told me more about the town and a few more details that he knew about Timothy J. Hayes. As far as I know, he doesn't have any surviving family in Franklin anymore. I'm honored to be back here 5 years later and to be able to plant another flag here at his grave. And my plan is to find another guy here somewhere too to do the same. And I'm happy to be able to introduce you all to Timothy J. Hayes, and to remember that everything we've seen over the past few days, that this wasn't just Americans, it wasn't just Canadians, it wasn't just Brits, it was a multinational force that was able to turn the tide in Europe in 1944. Thank you.
After 5 years, what did it mean for you to come back and say a few words about Hayes?
I mean, it was really special to have that opportunity to come back here and kind of pay tribute to him and introduce him to a group of people. I don't know, it was kind of in some ways like visiting an old friend that you haven't seen for a while, and getting to introduce them to other people. I don't know, I'm still kind of processing it a little bit, but I'm always kind of just taken by the size of the cemetery and by all of his comrades that he lays here with. I don't know if I can answer that right now.
Can you tell us anything about why Hayes spoke to you 5 years ago?
Nothing really. There wasn't a reason why I stopped at his cross and laid a flag. I was walking along and something drew me there. I'm not really sure what it was. It wasn't his name or where he was from or anything. I just kind of it just felt right to stop there and lay a flag where he was. And then the opportunity to get to go to his hometown and stand on the street where he grew up, and stand under his new street sign was a very powerful moment, and just to find out more about him and make connections back through his life, and be able to share his story with others. I feel blessed to be able to do that, and I hope to learn more about him too. My quest to find out more about Timothy J. Hayes has never really stopped, and this experience being here again today will rejuvenate that a little bit, and maybe I'll be able to fill in the blanks of the story a little bit more, and share them with more people.
Awesome, thanks, Trip.